from folks here in the room as to some of the approaches we should take. You know, so let's just talk about the sewer issue, okay? As many of you know, the city has been back with multiple breaks in our sewer lines, especially the 7.5-mile pipe that runs from the George Omar treatment plant all the way up to the Garbage Golf Course. If you live in Rio Vista, you see the work is being actively, we're engaged actively in trying to replace that. I think the end of this week, we're going to, the digging will continue, but the pipes will make their way underground. And the idea originally was to have the project done in 18 months from February, but now it looks like we may be able to complete it before the end of the year. We're actually hoping by the end of the summer or the beginning of the fall. So we're very excited about that, and I think that hopefully we have our, please pray that we don't have any more interruptions in our service, and certainly it's a challenge going forward once the pipe is complete, how we're going to revive the waterways. We have to now think about our natural resources and how we're going to resuscitate the wildlife that we had, the wildlife that was living inside, our canals and our waterways. So, and that's going to be part of our agenda going forward, because let's face it, the waterways are the livelihood of the city, whether you do it for recreation or just being able to appreciate what Mother Nature has given us. And unfortunately, these sewer breaks have certainly been devastating for us as a community. So we will continue not only to work on the sewers, but we're also working on the water treatment plant. We will probably go forward and replace the water treatment plant. I believe that's where the sentiment of the commission is right now. The idea, so we've been talking with various contractors and various companies who have approached us to either build it for us, build it and run it for us, or any combination thereof. So we haven't figured out what we're going to do. We want to hear from the community on this. I'm less inclined to have some private company run the water system for us. I think that should stay in the hands of the city. But I do think that entertaining offers to build the plant for us are something we need to consider immediately, because by neglecting and delaying these decisions, this is what we suffered through with the sewer issue. So the goal is to move the water plant further inland, closer to the source of the water, and also to make sure that we're benefiting from newer technologies, greater efficiencies, and also a water plant that will withstand, I'm told that the technology exists to withstand up to 200-mile-an-hour winds, which obviously is important to us. As hurricanes become more frequent and more destructive, we know what it's like to be without water for a day, right? Last year we had that accident, and we shouldn't have to suffer through that unnecessarily. So so we're working with the sewer system, and with the water system, and we continue to work not just on the 7.5-mile pipe, but we're working on infrastructure, the sewers infrastructure throughout the city. We have replaced miles and miles of pipe that have been experiencing groundwater infiltration. They call that I&I, inflow and infiltration. What does that do? You say, what difference does it make? The water gets into a pipe, it goes into a sewer pipe. How is that really going to bother us? Well, the problem is, if fresh water, through rising sea level, if fresh water goes into the water pipe, the sewer pipe rather, it adds extra demand on our treatment plant. So by adding extra demand on our treatment plant, it reduces the amount of capacity that we have at the treatment plant. So we have now engaged in a program that by the end of this year, we'll have reduced that to such a point where we now have increased the capacity by 30%. That's a huge percent at the treatment plant. So in addition to that, we are also working to not just handle the force mains, but also all the pipes in between. For example, many people have said, let's have a moratorium on building downtown because, it's putting too much pressure on the downtown infrastructure. The reality is that the downtown infrastructure, for the most part, is in place. And unfortunately, it came about as a result of the last sewer break we had in Tarpon River. So, strange things. So that plus the sewer line we put in along Sister Boulevard, and all the other type of work that we're doing in between is going to finally complete the network within the next couple of years so that the infrastructure in the downtown should be able to handle the amount of construction that's going on as we speak. Now, let's talk about the coronavirus, all right? There's a lot of misinformation and confusion about this, about the virus and about the city's reaction to it. Last week, I participated in a press conference that was conducted by the county, and the head of the health department for the county was the main speaker. Unfortunately, this person refused to give information, and to this day refuses to give information as to how many cases there are, whether or not they were serious or weak cases, and what measures they're taking as a county to try to minimize the impact on the community. Come on in. Hi. So the point is, sorry. You started a little early because I have to leave. Hey, Mayor, how are you? So even our city manager doesn't know what I'm about to say. So anyway, we're talking about the coronavirus.
Oh, okay. That's what you have to say.
So I'm telling them that we're getting mixed signals from the county because so it makes it more difficult for us as a city to participate in the program of trying to minimize the impact of the disease because one minute last week we were told that there were no cases. And that if there were possible cases, that the county had plenty of kits to be able to test people. Okay, and then the very next day, we all read in the newspaper that there were cases. Okay, so right away, and now today, the county declares a state of emergency. Okay, over 4 cases. So it's very confusing as to they did a complete 180. So I don't fault the Board of County Commissioners because all they're doing is getting information from their health department. And I think that they're very upset over the type of misinformation or confused information that they're getting. So we as a city have some choices to make. And come on in. We as a city have some choices to make. And I really am putting it out to all of you. Okay? Because in reality, we have a spectrum. And at one end of the spectrum is indifference. You don't have to do anything. At the other end of the spectrum is hysteria, where people are closing down, they want to close the port, they want to close all the schools, they want us to close City Hall, they want us to close everything down until the threat of the contagion is completely eradicated. So, reality is somewhere in between, right? So I need your help and your thoughts as to what the city should do from your perspective. So some people said, let's cancel St. Patrick's Day parade. So looking at St. Patrick's Day parade, 3 considerations. 1, is it a confined space or an open space? And what is the chance of contracting if it's in an open space? So clearly we know it's an open space. Number 2, do you have to go or you don't have to go? Correct. If you feel you're in a vulnerable class, one can just make the decision not to go. Okay. But thirdly, how does that look as a city that we're not? It looks as though we're not trying to do the most we can do to protect people from contagion. Is that indifference or is that hysteria? So the thing is that we have to make a decision somewhere along the line because that same model applies to the opening of the new stadium, the new soccer stadium, that very afternoon. Okay, to have a busy day here. And again, completely open air. You don't have to go if you don't want to. You can go if you want to. And the point is, what role should the city play in trying to partner with that organization, trying to make that business move forward? You know, if the county really wanted to declare a state of emergency, if they felt there really was an emergency, they'd shut the airport down. They'd say no more spring breakers.
Right.
Get out of here. Don't go home. Go home. Right?
Right.
But they're not doing that.
Right.
Okay. If they wanted to say it was a state of emergency, they would say no more people going on cruise ships. You know, a lot of people coming from all over the world, going to foreign lands. You can pick up anything, not just coronavirus. So So the question is it really a state of emergency, or are those just optics? So the point is, the city manager and I, confer on a daily basis. What should we do next? Where should we go? What's the posture should the city take in moving forward and making people feel comfortable that their city leaders are doing the most possible? Now, I see where we even have hand sanitizer in the elevator now. Hey, things like that. So I was watching CNN, I was watching another where they have their medical correspondents to talk about this. I was watching it most of last night. And essentially, the best deterrent for all of this is just a hygienic lifestyle. Wash your hands, try not to interact with people unnecessarily. You can shake hands, but it doesn't mean you're going to contract or you're going to be insulated. It's just any kind of, when I go to the gym, I wash my hands before I get there, I wash my hands when I leave. And, I wash down the equipment like you're supposed to, and every time you go, those are just normal hygienic practices. So, I think sometimes coronavirus or not, we have a very clean city right now because everyone is proud. Look at you guys. You're
Watching everything.
You're rubbing everything down. So let me ask, I asked the question, what do you all think the city should do with regards to the virus? What posture do you think the city should take going forward? Tell me about the parade. Tell me about,
Mr. Mayor, would you like to address the board or address the public? There's a difference.
I think the general membership is fine.
Okay.
I think, let's talk about the upcoming public events, because we all have them on our calendar.
Right.
Here's what I know. Kids are still going to school. People are still going to work, people are not being told to stay home from the workplace.
Right.
So, life is as usual for the most part. Broward County issued the emergency alert and said, cruise passengers, please self-isolate for 2 to 14 days. So beyond that, not that a wait and see it worked for China, but I would love to see the St. Patty's Day parade go forward. That is my thought process. And in terms of other things,
They have a different opinion. Don't be afraid to have a different opinion.
Abby?
Yes, sir.
I don't know the specific answer to what you're saying. I'd rather be darned for overreacting than damned for underreacting. That said, I'd recommend that you talk with cities out in California, Seattle, and some of them to find out exactly what they're doing now that it's already present, and to try and get an idea of what they would have liked to have done before things got out of
Well,
control.
Boston canceled their St. Patrick's Day parade, okay? But others have not.
New York City didn't.
New York City did. Hollywood did. So, California, I guess, because we believe the virus originated in China, and California is the first state, and there was a lot of traffic back and forth. Maybe there was a higher incidence in Washington, California, and so forth. But here we are in Florida, okay? So do we feel exposed as much as people in California do? Do we feel that, but more importantly, do we feel that going to an outdoor parade is going to subject us to contagion? So yes.
I can see the room. Ms. Rockland, I'd like to acknowledge you, and then board member Eichelbaum.
I think the main part of the population that we need to focus on is the elderly. And if the city can do, I think the events should go on, but maybe just step up some of the some of the warnings or the information that it's really the elderly that are most at risk. I mean, watching CNN, the mortality rate is very low, but when you get to the elderly population, 15, 16%.
They're the most vulnerable.
They're the most vulnerable. So I think the city should focus on their most vulnerable population. That's what
Board Member Eichelbaum?
I just flew back from New York and saw the most desolate city I've ever seen at 5:15 on a Thursday afternoon, and 2 people walking down Fifth Avenue, which is sad economically and calamitous all
I
around.
understand that Broadway plays for $50.
Yeah, but turning it around, when I brought it up to people, there was support saying, should government be prompting contact? And that is the predication they're operating on, and it's a hell of a dilemma.
Should government be
Prompting the contact of lots of people.
Not discouraging, is what he means, I think.
Yeah, in other words, should they be congregating tons of people when it takes only one
Valid
to
point.
create the situation?
That's a very valid point. Is that
Yep.
okay? Frankie in the back, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know your last name.
Lane.
Lang.
I think all the events should go ahead because with the events that have occurred, the pipe bursting and all of that, I don't think we should create a dying city. We shouldn't make people afraid to come for a lot of them. I just feel we should go on.
Board Member Ulmer?
I believe the event should go on, and I think you should continue to press for them to tell us where the cases are, so we know what the real threat is. Because it's ridiculous that they're on TV and telling us that we have 4 cases and we don't know what the true threat is, because we don't know where they are.
And how they originate.
Exactly.
Sir, if you could introduce yourself.
Douglas B. Carl Shores. I think the event should go on. I think to make not a statement, but perhaps every corner the city puts out washing stations, or we have tissues or warnings or something, not big warnings like crossbones, but something about don't sneeze on something. Just so I know even with the warnings we had everyone here knew what was going on with the water. Yet there are people in their own homes who don't pay attention. I think the city gives out a lot of information if you happen to get it. But people were still in the waterways and they didn't know. So maybe there should have been signs. I'm not diverting this on the same subject. There should have been signs where the speed signs are on the water to tell people the water is basically flowing sewage, because unless you really know, you didn't know. So maybe the same thing should be that there are, as you get into the parade area, some sort of enhanced things, washing station, just something more.
Should say, kiss me on the Irish, say, don't kiss me.
Wait for me across the way.
Excellent point. Okay, so Board Member Albetta, the young lady in the back, followed by that gentleman.
No, I pass, because all the questions are redundant.
Okay. Young lady in the back, if you could introduce yourself?
Donna Hagen. I would not encourage the city to violate HIPAA, because HIPAA is really at the core of all of our privacy. So I wouldn't encourage the city to want to know who the people are and where they live, because I think that's really a HIPAA violation.
It's not a HIPAA violation.
I'd like to know where they are and addresses and I.
No. I just wanted to know, I think the question is, where do they think they contracted it, and whether or not they developed symptoms. Those 2 things are still being hidden from us. We don't have to know who they are, where they live, or even where they're from. I mean, it's just basic. HIPAA is violated if you give the name.
Or the address, but I think we know those things, at least I heard them on the radio this morning. But I would be more interested in the city taking a dynamic, long-term vision. If in fact the 4 cases turned into 400, I would like the city to advocate on behalf of the Fort Lauderdale residents for the county to set up a drive-through testing. Many of the things that are being done where there's already high counts.
So I asked for that, and the county will not confirm or deny whether or not they have enough test kits.
Well, we know they don't.
Well, no, according to the press conference last week, the director said that there are sufficient test kits to accommodate people. Those are the words I heard. So whatever that means, they've not admitted that they don't have enough test kits.
All right, we're going to take, I think, 3 or 4, maybe more, and so we have the gentleman there, and then the young man in front of you. If you could stand up and introduce yourself?
Oliver Kale, Coral Shore.
Yeah.
I would second what Mr. Mead said. I think over-communicating is good, especially from the optic side, because obviously it's a concern for everybody responsible. But I think overreacting is bad. And we've seen it with the stock market, we've seen it with knee-jerk reaction. I think you don't have more credibility when you overreact as a responsible management of the city. So you want over-communication, not over-reacting. That's my position.
So, like, if we had hand sanitizer stations along the parade route or along the bleachers, things like that?
It's communication, it's awareness. I think it's right in line with what you should do. I think overreacting is probably too early anyway to really know what's going on. You can always upgrade your response and your attitude towards those events in the future. If you do it, you overdo it now, you stuck later when it becomes really serious.
Mr. Donaldson?
Hi, I just got off a plane from New York, and...
Uh-oh.
But I canceled my trip to China, which was leaving May 3rd. And all the Broadway shows were packed. I saw 5 shows over the weekend. They were all packed. People were out shopping, etc. on the weekend and Saturday and Sunday. If we are sending children to school, if we are sitting in this room right now, in an enclosed place, and if we haven't canceled school, we're still going to work, there's how many people in the malls, I don't see where an open-air event should be canceled by the city. People at risk know that they're at a risk group, and they will then decide to stay home, or not get on a plane, or not go do something else. But I think that the city's knee-jerk reaction is, as other people said, until we have something more credible, but the people at risk know that they're at risk, and they will do what they need to do. But we can't close down the city. If we're sending kids to school, then what is wrong with the parade?
Right. Board Member Curry.
I have a couple points of feedback. First of all, I think that if you do not tell members of our community that you disagree with the response that has been given by the county or whoever, then they're going to think that you don't care. So if the city's position is this is not appropriate, then you need to stand behind that. Otherwise, they're going to go, what is the city doing? That's the
Well, we
first
haven't
thing.
come out with an official statement because we're still trying to figure out, there's so many variables going on. But by midweek, which I guess is tomorrow or Thursday, we will come out with an official statement.
But what I'm saying is, if you think the way that things have been communicated thus far by other officials is not sufficient, I think people would enjoy hearing you say that, because then they would feel like our city officials agree this information is not what it needs to be, and they would feel like you are on the same page as them.
Okay.
The other thing is that in all of us having these meetings and wondering, is the meeting going to be canceled? Is it not the parade or this or that? You guys need to be making sure that you share with people that you're having discussions about how our government is going to continue to operate if we can't have the open meetings. So I know that City Manager Lagerbloom has talked to your city attorney, and that he's, they're talking about it, but if everybody else doesn't know in the room that you guys are working on how to keep our city running, they're gonna go, they're sitting on their butts and they don't know anything. So you gotta communicate those type of things.
That's enough.
And that's enough.
So, one more question, and then we're gonna,
We should put out an official statement.
Yeah, I'm happy.
2 more short ones. Introduce yourself, please, sir.
Bob Golden, Central Beach Alliance. I was going to speak early, and I'm glad I reserved it until the end, because I wanted to hear what other people had to say. I look at it, I think you're hearing pretty much the same sentiment, that we have to do business as normal. As of now, communication is essential. That you do as much communication as possible through emails, through media, etc. And I think the third, take as many precautions as possible. Was some of the ideas came from the room. I think what I'm going to suggest from the chair,
Colleen, who's addressing them?
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm going to suggest that the chair maybe does an informal vote of how people in the room feel, whether we should take more precautions or continue business as usual. And that would be a good guide for the mayor.
I'm not sure that's a clear enough motion to make at this point. I think,
Would rather not.
okay,
I don't want to-
here's the point that I think I'm hearing, which is, I think we would all benefit from being better informed, and I think there's a near-term and a longer-term scenario here. And I think it's preparing for the as-if bad scenario and what would be needed in that eventuality if it occurs, right? More testing kits, more treatment, that kind of thing. To be prepared for a potential worst case scenario, think those steps through. But now I think it's more, I feel ill-educated at the moment, right? I spoke to a physician earlier today who said, over 7,000, maybe 15,000 people have died from the flu already this year. Flu cases are up 65%. No one's talking about that. And we've got obviously a higher mortality rate with this coronavirus, but in terms of it's hitting as often or as frequently, it's far less so. So there's I think your metaphor was perfect. Hysteria motion for hysteria denied, right? Okay, last question from this gentleman.
Robert Linder, Harbor Inlet. Speaking of the flu, and speaking of long-term scenarios, CBS News has put on a lot of programs comparing the influenza of 1918 with this coronavirus. And they seem to be pointing out the fact that the warmer the weather gets, the influenza died out. And we all know in about a month's time we're going to be in 90, 95 degree weather. Maybe it'll slow down, maybe it's a good thing. Thank you.
So wonderful. So there's a lot we don't yet know. So I think this is an evolving and fluid situation that I feel confident city officials, health officials will bang on the health officials as necessary to keep on top of this, and we're happy to help communicate and distribute. So I would like to, I can't make a motion, but how about a motion for St. Pat's, up or down, right? Can someone make a motion? You're very good at wording these. Can you?
No, Michael's turn.
Okay, Michael, yes.
Madam Chair, and to the ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'd like to make the motion that this board support the annual Fort Lauderdale St. Patrick's Day parade and celebration throughout the day, and that...
That's it. And the opening of the stadium?
And the opening of the stadium as well, and any outdoor events that is in the city of Fort Lauderdale that we support.
Oh, at this time.
At this time.
At this time. Okay.
I want to amend the motion. It's not on behalf of the board, it's on behalf of the general membership.
Fine. Okay, all right. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion, point of order, discussion.
Yeah,
Excuse me, I'm the parliamentarian. This is what the board has taken the vote.
No.
Would you like to open the floor?
Dr. Getz, very, very briefly.
I'm asking the chair.
Yeah.
Okay, the floor is open then.
I don't believe that a decision like this should be made by the general populace. I think it should be made by the experts who have as much information as possible, meaning primarily fire rescue, and to the extent that they're informed, the senior members of the commission. I don't think this body should be making decisions like this, because I don't think they're informed enough.
Excellent point, excellent point. This is a vote of the general membership on an event based on the information we have, but
Discussion?
excellent point.
Discussion?
That's another discussion. Ready to take a vote here. Go ahead.
Discussion. With respect, I appreciate where you're coming from, but this is not a medical decision. This is from my perspective, This is not a medical decision. This is a decision from the neighborhoods to support our city, to keep our city going at this time. That's why I added at this time, so that, you know, people will feel some support and comfort for going forward at this time. With respect. Thank
I also want you to know that governments, multiple governments are paying attention to us. For example, last night, I got a call from the White House, not from the big guy, but from a staff member that we have been in communication with for a little while, reaching out to us saying, you know, what is it we can do to help with, you know, to help with the situation. And I responded by saying, just give us exactitude, give us something, give us some measure of certitude that we know what we're dealing with. And he said, I agree. There's been a lot of mixed messages. I said, yeah, especially at the top. So I said, so that was one thing. Also, Congressman Deutsch, I just got off the phone with him before the meeting began. And he's reaching out to us really for answers. You know, he wants to know, what are we doing? So that was the reason why I brought this issue to us here tonight, because we are the sense of the community. And I think it's important that we as your public officials understand what the sense of the community is.
Okay, we're gonna shut down discussion. I think we have to move on from this topic. We have a motion on the floor. Close the discussion. Do we have a second on the motion?
I do.
Okay, all in favor?
No. Let me read the motion so I make sure I got it right.
Okay.
I don't wanna-
Close discussion.
Okay, the motion is that the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association general membership on 3/10/2020 supports that the 3/14/2020 St. Patrick's Day Parade and Inter-Miami soccer game take place as scheduled.
And other outdoor events, he said.
And he said, and other outdoor.
And other outdoor events, but as of
That is
today.
scheduled.
On for that date.
All in favor?
Wait.
I didn't say it right.
Listen, it's 7 o'clock and we gotta move on, so get it right, finish
Well,
it,
I
let's move on.
would like to.
Okay.
And for other outdoor events
That are scheduled.
scheduled
At this time.
at this time.
Okay,
Add that
thank
word,
you.
at this time.
Okay, that's the whole thing.
All right.
Good, we're good to go.
All right, thank you. Now can we vote? Yeah? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Dr.
I'm
Getz?
abstaining.
Okay, Melinda's
One opposed
abstaining.
and one abstaining.
All right, Mayor, did you have any other thoughts you want to talk about,
No,
Mayor?
I think
Okay,
I've
for
monopolized
tonight.
it enough.
All
I
right.
just appreciate, you know, the feedback, and I know Chris appreciates the feedback. I have to go to Lauderdale Harbor now to have a neighborhood meeting, so thank you, everybody. Nice to see everybody again.
Really wonderful, thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Great. So we have rotating commissioners and the mayor coming to our meeting, so we were privileged to have the mayor here tonight. Next month, we have Commissioner Moretus joining us. Okay, so we're going to go back to the beginning of the meeting, which is our roll call. And we also have members of Census 2020 here, and they are interested in recruiting workers from specific neighborhoods. And are you paying them?
Yes,
Okay, so workers are going to be paid to recruit people to take the census, because you need to be counted. Okay, so as Christina calls out the roll, I'll mention the neighborhoods that need workers. If those are interested, I've got a phone number and a name for you to reach out to. And lastly, Keith from Neighborhood Support in Hal Barnes' office have brought for HOA presidents parking passes for the garage. So as we go through each neighborhood, if Mary, you could just call out.
And there are neighborhoods that are recognized by the city, so you would have had to have gone out on that website and...
Right, so these are recognized civic associations by the city of Fort Lauderdale that have submitted their application to date, okay? All right.
Bell Harbor HOA, Bermuda Riviera Association, Beverly Heights Neighborhood Association, Birch Park Beach HOA, Central Beach Alliance, Central City Alliance,
Central Beach needs workers for the census, FYI, so, okay.
Central City Alliance, Coley Hammock HOA, Coral Ridge Country Club Estates, Coral Ridge Association, here, Coral Ridge Isles HOA,
Here.
Coral Shore Civic Association, Crescent Park Civic Association, Downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic, here,
Needs census workers,
Edgewood Civic Association.
Here.
Flagler Village Civic Association.
Here.
Needs census workers.
Gulf Mile Community Association. Harbordale Civic Association.
Here.
Needs census workers.
Harbor Beach Property Owners. Harbor Inlet Association.
Here.
Historic Dorsey River Bend.
Here.
Home Beautiful Park Civic Association. Idlewild Improvement.
Here.
Imperial Point.
Here.
Lake Ridge Civic.
Here.
Landings Residential Association. Lauderdale Beach HOA.
Here.
Lauderdale Harbors Improvement Association. Lauderdale Isles Civic. Lauderdale Manors HOA.
Here.
Melrose Manors HOA.
Here.
Middle River Terrace Neighborhood.
Here.
Nurmi Isles HOA. Poinciana Heights Civic Association. Poinciana Park Civic Association. Progresso Village.
Here.
Rio Vista here. River Garden Sweeting Estate. Riverland Preservation Society. River Oaks Civic Association. Riverside Park Residents Association. Rock Island Community.
Yeah.
Sailboat Bend Civic Association. Seven Isles Civic Association. Shady Bank Civic Association.
Here.
Sunrise Intercoastal HOA. South Middle River Civic Association.
Present.
Tarpon River Civic Association. Victoria Park Civic Association.
Here.
Okay, we have one.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I'll pass that around. I didn't name all the neighborhoods that need census workers, but I'll pass these around so people can take a look. Just maybe not take one, but just share it on. All right, so the only announcement I have to make is we are acknowledging the august individual. Board member Stan Eichelbaum has announced his resignation from the board, so which means an opening at first VP. But the most important thing is to acknowledge Stan's contributions. He's added a lot of credibility to the council with his expertise and background and skill set. So we are very sorry to see you go. Did you want to say anything?
No, I think I sent a note to the board saying that it's been terrific. I believe in the Civic Association Council, and I think it's great to see this many people committed to escalating Fort Lauderdale to its great potential, and I hope we can keep looking at what that potential is and moving that direction.
Wonderful. Please help me just thank Stan. Thank you, Stan. Been wonderful. All right, review and acceptance of the minutes from last month's general meeting, February 11th. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we have reports from fire, police, president, treasurer, membership. Chris, I just wanted to ask, in terms of your schedule, are you okay to wait for after the reports, or would you prefer to go now? Okay. All right, so you're okay?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so I'd like to introduce, and I want to acknowledge, Board Member Curry has reached out to Fort Lauderdale Police and Fort Lauderdale Fire, because we had not as often speakers and presentations month to month. So we are going to be going to quarterly presentations of crime stats and fire, because fire is relevant for hurricane season as well. And we are privileged to have Battalion Chief Oakmeyer with us tonight, and he just so happens to be also talking about coronavirus, if there's anything that the mayor has not already covered. So with that, we're going to learn a little bit about our fire department and their wonderful institution and agency and what they do. So please help me welcome Chief Oakmeyer.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you for having me here. My name is Danny Oakmeyer. I've been with Fort Lauderdale since 1999. I've been in the fire service since 1996. And I think the mayor pretty much hit on everything other than the fact that wash your hands, don't touch your face, hit bumps, elbow bumps, foot bumps, and that's it, okay? But other than that, as far as on the fire side, every morning at 9 o'clock, we do get updates internally for the coronavirus. And what else is the regional communication, which is our dispatch center for the whole county, instituted a new protocol that when they get a specific call type, they're going to start asking them questions. And if it's going to alert them to a possible presumptive coronavirus case, they're going to call it over the radio, and they're also going to put it on our MDT for the crew to let them know so that they can be warned prior to them getting there. So that's just something that we have internally that we're kind of watching out for our crews as well. So real quick, I just wanted to, it's a quick PowerPoint. I don't want to kill you with a PowerPoint presentation, but this is the first time that I've been here, and I just want to tell you a little bit about our department and what we have going on. So the department was formed in 1912. We have about 485 full-time employees. That includes about 412 sworn, okay, which are your firefighters, your certified firefighter paramedics, or certified firefighter EMTs. We have 73 civilians. Ocean Rescue also falls underneath us. Okay, so we do count them as far as personnel in the fire service, averaging about 130 calls per day and just shy of 50,000 calls annually per year. Back in 2014, our downtown station 2 over here was the busiest firehouse in the country. Okay, in the country, it was the busiest firehouse. So, you know, we took a lot of pride in that, you know, in being the busiest firehouse in the country. So we've got just less than $100 million operating budget. 11 stations, they're just finishing up our 12th station down off of Southwest 17th Street and the railroad tracks. 12 engines, 3 ladders, 16 rescues. We've got 15 full-time 24-hour rescues. And I don't know if you're familiar, but we run a 24-hour shift and then we're off for 2 days. 24 on, 48 hours off, and basically it comes down to 10 days a month. We have airport rescue firefighting, which is our crash truck, and that truck is up at the executive airport. And unfortunately, we do get plane crashes here in Fort Lauderdale, as I'm sure that some of you have seen and heard. We have a technical rescue team, a hazardous materials team, which is also located up at the executive airport. They're an adaptive response, so when they're not doing hazardous materials calls, when we're not running hazmat calls, they're running an engine and a rescue out of that station. We have a fireboat and a dive team. We have our cities divided up into 3 battalions. Battalion 2, which covers down here, Battalion 13, which is on the beach, and then Battalion 16, which is the north end of the city. Accredited. We have a lot of accreditation status. We try to do the best that we can for the city, for the community. So on our fire side, we have a CFLCA accreditation, Commission on Fire Accreditation International. And basically what all this means is the industry's best practices. Okay? So on our fire side, whatever the best practices, that's what you're getting from the city, from the Fire Rescue Department. Our CAS, Commission on Accreditation of Ambulance Services, and that's on our rescue side. Okay, our rescue side, CAS accreditation is, again, that's the industry standards. EMAP, Emergency Management Accreditation Program, our Emergency Management Bureau, again, accredited. We have an ISO Class 1 insurance rating, and basically what that means is if you have an ISO Class 1, then insurance companies see that, then they're like, okay, good. If the house does catch on fire because of our response times and the service we provide, you know, the damage isn't going to be that great. And then we have an ISO 9001 within the city. So we're broken down. We have Chief Rodemaker is our first female fire chief. She actually hired me back in 1999. She retired in 2003. She went to Little Rock and then Austin, and then she came back 2 years ago. So it's a real pleasure and privilege to be working for her. And then below her we have 4 deputy chiefs, and below those deputy chiefs, they oversee assistant chiefs, battalion chiefs, and different parts of the organization. Our standard of cover. Standard of covers is measuring points that are set through accreditation to gauge how efficiently we are serving our community. Our standard of coverage to calls in Fort Lauderdale 90% of the times is as follows. On medical calls, we're shocked to be on scene within 6 minutes. So what happens within 4 to 6 minutes to the body within outbreak? Okay, so you have that lack of oxygen, the blood's not circulating, all of a sudden the brain starts to die, okay, cells start to die, heart starts to die, so the goal is to try to get there within 6 minutes. This city is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, there's a lot more traffic, okay? and we look at all the stats, we run data, you know, we're data-driven. If we want more trucks, we can't go to the city manager and say, hey, Mr. Manager, we want another truck. You know what he's gonna say to us? Why do you need another truck? Okay, so then we've got to look at the data, we've got to bring the data back home for him to make a decision. Residential fire calls, we strive to have 16 people on scene within 10 minutes and 20 seconds, okay? Residential fires, we try to get 16 people on scene to put that fire out. The faster we get there, the faster we can put the fire out. And then on commercial fires, we try to get 22 people on scene within 14 minutes. Now, that's not all coming at the same time. We still have, one truck will get there within 4 minutes, and then another truck will get there. But overall, trying to get the residential structure fires within 10 minutes and 20 seconds, and then 14 minutes for commercial structure fires. Now, you know what this is, don't you? And it's not coronavirus related. Okay? So what I did is I basically broke down our residential fires per the homeowners association.
Wow.
Okay, so all those red dots, those are where we had our fires. And you can see, you can look at your association and you can say, oh my. Look at that, we had this. You probably didn't even know. Okay? So, why is this important? Okay, this is important for you all to know that there are fires that do occur in your neighborhood association. Now, what's going to save lives besides us getting there? How many of you all have education? How many of you all have working smoke detectors? When was the last time you tested? Change batteries. You change them on Saturday night? Did you at least check them Saturday night, daylight savings time? Did you change them? Okay, so that's that. You take a look at that, and then I challenge you all to say, hey, look, smoke detectors are free. Okay, you can get a free smoke detector. Matter of fact, you can register with the American Red Cross. They'll come out and they'll put a free smoke detector in your house, which you can't beat that. Okay, and they've already had in the county where they put in a smoke detector and it's actually saved somebody's life. So, again, fires in the city, and the next time I come, I can put up medical calls. How many cardiac arrests you've had in your neighborhood? Now, why is that important? What saves lives when it comes to cardiac arrest? Sir?
Early defibrillation.
Early defibrillation
And bystander CPR.
and bystander CPR, right there.
You took the course.
Every minute that CPR is not being done or you don't get defibrillated, your chances of survival decrease by 10%. So at 4 minutes, without being defibrillated, without CPR, you've got a 60% chance of surviving. I don't want that. You know, I don't want that. So what I can bring it here, and again, hands-only CPR. Okay, we can teach you, we can come out to your association, and if you get your residents together, we can go ahead and teach you just hands-only CPR. We don't teach mouth to mouth anymore. Because they look at that and they say, well, if we just teach compressions only, guess what's going to happen? More people are going to say, I'll do compressions. Okay, but in the years gone by, do compressions, you breathe twice, they're like, no, I'm going to go ahead and pass on that. So, again, you saw where the fires were, smoke alarms, hands-only CPR training, stop the bleed training, which is another big initiative, which everything is going on with active killers and all that. We can come out to your association and we can teach your residents stop the bleed training. And these are only 45-minute classes, you know, but you can save a life with that.
If you have wired smoke detectors, do those batteries need to be changed, or are they charged by the system?
They could be charged, and some of them could have a battery, so you need to check those as well. Yes, ma'am.
Frankie? No, sorry. Frankie, then Michelle? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to understand this. When you show the certifications at the beginning, did you say that our insurance rates are determined by?
They look at that. Insurance companies, they will take a look at that. Now, whether they give you a discount or not, that's on them. Okay, so they're going to take a look at that. Okay, so that's why, and it's up to them. And they're not going to tell you, you can research this, but this is they will look at what kind of ISO rating that the city and the community does have.
You can look how far is your fire hydrant from your house.
What's that?
Everything. How far is your fire hydrant from your house?
Yeah, Jeff, question.
Yes, can you show the map of the fires? What period of time was that?
Last year,
So over the last, that's a whole year?
2019. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody? Yes, sir.
The numbers at times, is that the time from the call that you call in or the time the house gets a call?
As far as you're talking about these times?
Yeah, you say 6 minutes.
Yeah, when dispatch gets the call.
Okay.
When dispatch gets the call. Now, there's factors that, factor into that time. If you can look at traffic. Now, another thing is, if we've got a truck that's out, that's in this zone, and we get another call in this zone, guess what? Now they're gonna have to pull another truck, and that could add on to the time as well. Okay, but we're all taking a look at this, and that's one of the reasons why we got that peak hour rescue truck a few years ago to help with our times.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How big is your program to teach people CPR?
Well, it depends. We go out and teach it. We do. We are a training center through the American Heart Association. We are a training center. We can't teach CPR, and we do get calls for CPR, but depending on the size of the class and the location. But as far as hands-only CPR, coming out and teaching, we can do that.
I would advise you to be extremely aggressive. You probably know that King County, Washington, increased their survivability by 4, 5, 6 times compared to what ours is, by being very aggressive, not just responding to questions for CPR, but going out and teaching everybody CPR.
That's
so
right.
I would just urge you to take a more proactive approach.
I'm going to leave my contact information, so if you want to get a hold of me via email, via phone call, just call me. But we had over 150 cardiac arrests last year, and we're looking at probably around a 22% return of spontaneous circulation. That's return of pulses.
That's amazing.
Okay.
How many of you feel like this would be worthwhile information for your specific neighborhoods? 100%.
Now, again, this is just let me know. We'll come out here. We'll teach you hands-only CPR. We'll teach you, stop and breathe. Just whatever's best, for the community.
Okay.
So just to follow up, anybody who's interested in asking him specific questions or setting up something with the association, tomorrow the council's going to send out an email and it's going to have all of his contact information, so you'll have phone number, email, whatever you need tomorrow of Chief Oatmeyer. And also, will you, can I email you to get a copy of your presentation and I'll share that as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
So wonderful presentation. Please help me thank Chief Oatmeyer. Very worthwhile. Thank you. Yeah, whatever. All right, here's hand sanitizer. All right, so from our illustrious Fort Lauderdale Police Department, we have the wonderful Lieutenant Martin, who's going to come up and give us a chat about crime stats.
Illustrious.
Illustrious. Yes.
It's very difficult to fault the fire department.
No.
I've been here since 1995. Everybody loves firemen, but police are around because they need heroes too.
Aww. Please help me welcome Lieutenant Martin. Come on.
So, quick, I know you guys are running behind. Quick on stats. Obviously, this whole booklet is all of the homeowner associations broken down. But in general, in a comparison from this January to the previous January, most everything is down with the exception of 2 things. Auto thefts and auto burglaries. And the last time I was here, I told you the same thing. Most of that comes from the fact that we leave our doors and windows open. So with that being said, we're our own worst enemies when it comes to that. I briefly touched on making sure that you don't keep your key fobs or your keyless car entry close by to your cars, because if it's close enough, if you leave it next to your front door, if it's close enough for your car to receive the signal, somebody can just touch the door and the door is not unlocked. On that note, I did want to share, one of our detective groups actually broke up an auto theft ring, and they've been watching them for a while. They've been responsible for a lot of auto thefts. And the way they were actually doing it is they actually had what the locksmiths have, and that's a box that can plug into the module in your car, and you can, like, if you lost your key and they can reprogram a key, Well, they had that box. They had a whole bag full of keys, like Ford, all these different fobs. And they actually caught him in the act, and they've been responsible for stealing cars not only in our city, but throughout the county. So that was a pretty good one.
Good job.
One other thing to keep in mind too, the tag readers that you see throughout the city, you guys know what those do? Obviously they read tags, but do you know why they're important to us?
The LPRs?
Yes, the license tag readers.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, the license plate readers. You see, let's give you an example like the one from 95 and Lagerbloom. There's a little traffic sign, says walk your speed, whatever. They have little cameras on them. And we have them throughout the city. And what it's doing is it's reading license plates as they go by. Same thing parking enforcement uses. Only we used to catch the bad guys instead of the people who don't pay their tickets. But there's some out on the beach, there's some permanently assigned. Let me tell you how successful these things are. I'm not going to hit you with stats, but I can tell you I'm in charge of the northwest section of the city, Sistrunk Boulevard, that area. We have some that are on 6th Street. We have some that are on 19th Street. Every single shift, we get at least 2 or 3 hits. It'll come back as a stolen car, a robbery car, at least I'd say even 3 or 4 times we get these hits. And what's good is if somebody just committed a residential burglary in your area, and we can put that tag into the system of license plate readers, and it'll tell us whenever it pings, so that we can follow it. It's a tremendous act. Some of the private organizations, the shopping malls, there's even, I think last time, there might have been one homeowner association, I forget which one, was it looking to get one? The thing to keep in mind as far as if you're looking to get something like that for your neighborhood, remember they're only really useful when you have one primary ingress and one primary egress, and it's got to be in an area where you think crime is going to occur, or where you think bad guys are going to go after a crime. So for instance, Walmart is a very good area, because a lot of times they steal cell phones and then they go to Walmart, put them in a little machine so they can get a cash reward or something like that. 6th Street, 19th Street, main thoroughfares like Broward Boulevard, those are where they work. The parking lots down on the beach.
About 15th Avenue, Northeast, and East Sunrise Boulevard.
That would be helpful too, and the good thing about that is they're mobile.
Appreciate it.
And we constantly rotate them. St. Patrick's Day, as you heard the mayor speak, it's on. We're planning for it. There's actually a run at the beginning of it, so that's on. Then the parade, and obviously the new stadium. We're preparing for that. That's in my section of the world. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to really cope with that with our structure, but I think we got everything in line. So we're really excited by that. I was told by the folks that were there today, they were practicing. And it was just everybody like up here, up to the fence, and just everybody's excited about it. So
nice.
That's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's about all I got for you guys.
That's wonderful. I tell you what, I really, really would like to move the meeting along. If you don't mind, could we defer questions unless they're citywide specific or citywide questions? We have to move the agenda along. So a question or two, and then we gotta go.
If neighborhood associations need a contact for how to get an officer at their police department, where do they go to, an officer at their association, how do they do that?
So you have 3 district captains that are in charge of the city. You have districts 1, 2, and 3. So all you'd have to do is email one of the 3 district captains, asking them to have an officer or one of their neighborhood action team officers attend one of the meetings.
Okay, thank you.
All right, last 2 questions, that's
How
it.
does someone know which of the 3, because they don't line up with our commission?
I know.
They don't, but I can tell you that to make it simple, if you're talking about the beach area, that's considered District 1.
We'll email you the district, the neighborhood, and the district it's in,
That's
so we have that. Last question.
While the city commissioner is here, as well as yourself, the $100 million bond was approved for the new police station. We have not heard, or at least I have not heard, any of the progress of where we stand.
Can we defer that to another night unless it's a short 30-second response?
It's less than,
Okay.
We've issued a notice of intent to award architectural services to AECom. It has to run its course, and we can issue that contract
and then the site will go into architecture design. So it's moving forward.
All right. Okay. All right. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Would really, really like to thank you, Lieutenant. Great job. Thank you very much. Okay, President's report. I don't have a report. We've talked enough. You've heard from me. I will say this, St. Patty's Day Parade on Saturday is on. The council this year has slot or position number 8. In other words, we're the 8th party in the parade, which is huge. We're like right after the University of Notre Dame. That's saying something. We are partnered with Jim Hammond, who runs Day of the Dead. So he has a big 10-foot Macy's parade size St. Patty's Day puppet that he steers the parade with, and then a bunch of snake puppets. We're looking for people to carry their neighborhood banners. This wonderful Betty Shelley is going to have her car and a bunch of beads, if we're still doing beads, sanitized beads, I guess. But we're looking for at least 10 volunteers to help carry the snake puppets with Jim Hammond. We need to be there at 9:45 a.m. on Saturday, no later, and we're meeting in front of the Riverside Hotel. I'm passing around a sign-up sheet. So email, phone number, and then we can follow up with an email reminder later in the week. How many neighborhoods are going to walk in the parade? That's it? Where's Luis? Luis is also, okay, great, all right. So if we could get a handful of folks from each of the neighborhoods, I know you're going to split time.
I have 4 coming to you.
Oh, that's awesome. So I'm going to give this to you, and then I'm going to turn it over to our treasurer, Miss Bowker. If you could give the treasurer's report.
Okay, so I'll just make this quick. I did send this out to the board beforehand. For interest to the membership, the total in our SunTrust primary business account is $10,726.58. We've also got $144.75 in PayPal. I deposited 7 checks this past month since the last membership meeting, and then there were 3 PayPal payments. The other item of interest is that our CD matured. Colleen and I made the decision, along with the board's knowledge, to not actually renew it, so that CD principal and interest went back into the checking account, and we'll be making a decision on those monies at a future board meeting.
Wonderful, thank you, and we've got a couple membership checks coming in tonight, so thank you all, and that leads very nicely to our membership report.
Okay, so,
Board Member Pelican, sorry.
yeah, that's me. I have about 15, maybe a little bit more of the associations that have actually filled out the form, given me the money, and gone online for neighborhood recognition. Now I have a variety of neighborhoods that have done some of those things, but not all of those things. So we all need to be doing all of those things. And I have some neighborhoods that haven't done anything whatsoever. So once I get through whatever we received tonight, those who haven't sent anything or are missing a piece or whatever, I'll be emailing whoever was in charge of your neighborhood last year. If there's somebody new this year, I won't know if I don't have your form. But, so those 3 things. Money, the form for this association, which you can fill out online, by the way, and email me, and you can actually pay online too. And then you need to go online to be recognized by the city. You have to be a recognized homeowners association to be in the council. Okay?
You can be a member of the council without being a recognized civic association. And you can pay dues to be a council member. You just can't vote on items unless you're recognized. Okay, thank you for that report, appreciate it. All right, so we've got 2 presenters left, and our extra illustrious city manager, Mr. Lagerbloom, is here. So you weren't here when the mayor began to speak, but we have been very lucky that Chris has agreed to come to us on a fairly regular basis and spend 5 or 10 minutes, 10 minutes giving us general updates. And we're very grateful to you. I turn over the floor to Mr. Lagerbloom. Please help me welcome him.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So good evening, everybody. I'll try to use those 5 to 10 minutes wisely and cover a host of topics. Let's not start with coronavirus and start with something different. Let's start with the
Quiet, please. Thank you.
With the sewer pipe repairs, since that's what I've been here talking with you about previously. All of the projects that we have outlined and identified previously are underway and on the timeline that we originally provided. For those that live in Rio Vista, that 70-inch, quite phenomenal tunnel is dug, and the new pipe will start to go into the ground on Friday of this week. And so between now and no later than April the 30th of this year, next month, we will have that pipe, or those original breaks, back with a pipe underground, and that surface bypass that's over there will be removed, and then we'll move into active work at Virginia Schumann Young Park to bring it back online as quickly as we can in a condition better than we found it. To happen alongside of that, the south line that we call it, the south redundant line, is underway, as is the north. Murphy has mobilized on Bayview Drive. If you drive Bayview, you'll see that the southbound lanes in a certain portion are closed. That is so that the pipe can be fused together and laid on the ground so that it can go into the hole. So as much of an impact as that is, there's really just no other way to put that pipe together so it can go in the ground. So they're moving as fast as they possibly can. We talked originally about a 14 to 16 month project. I'm optimistic that that's even increasing and that we will see that pipe done and us over onto a new 7.5 mile pipe before the end of this calendar year. So that timeline is getting better as we move through the project. So any questions on the sewer pipe repairs?
That's amazing.
It's moving quick. It's great. It really is. It's good. So let's talk a little bit about coronavirus. Well, before I get to that, let me finish with sewer pipes, because the question of this fine from the Department of Environmental Protection has come up and made headlines much quicker than it needed to. I visited with our leadership in Tallahassee last week on Wednesday. We brought to the table two things that we think will cause them to want to have a further discussion with us. One thing that I went and told the leadership of DEP is that all future movement of a return from the utility into the general fund would be recommended to be ended on March the 17th. So next week, we will make that recommendation during the meeting to remove what we term as this ROI thing. We will be eliminating it in this current fiscal year, as well as I offered up the fact that we would rather make an investment into our system than simply write a check. I highlighted that anybody could write a check one to the other, and in this circumstance, because there's not shareholders, there's ratepayers, the people that suffer are just those that pay rates to use the system. And as government leadership in Florida at the state level and the local level, we should figure out a way to come together to not penalize the citizen of Florida and find a way to invest in the system. I think that was received reasonably well. I think also that because they went to Budget Committee this last week and have announced that they will end their session this Friday, I think I will wait and hear from them after they are no longer in session as to whether or not they want to talk about amending our consent order. But I left with what I felt was a favorable response after visiting with the leadership in Tallahassee last week. Also on the Tallahassee front, I think we're going to live to fight another year on vacation rentals. So we'll put that one behind us. I think we're going to live to fight another year. Yeah, it met some opposition and resistance when it got in the Senate, and the governor indicated his intentions to potentially veto it. So all indication at this point is that we've lived to fight another year. I can't promise that we will be able to last through next year, but we'll take it one year at a time. We've been fighting year to year for years. So that's an update from Tallahassee. Let's talk about coronavirus quickly.
And Sadowski, can you talk about that? I just mentioned that's Tallahassee too.
Yeah, it's actually still fun. It's it didn't get rated, which is huge.
That's a big news item too.
She's mentioning Sadowski, which deals with affordable housing. It historically has been a fund that has been rated. I get to use that word, rated. I love that. It was one that stayed in most years, then all of a sudden disappeared. This year it actually stayed in, so that's promising news for affordable housing. All right, coronavirus. So we as a city obviously have our response to the virus itself. We look to the state, we look to the county, and then we look to us. The governor has declared a state of emergency in the state. What that means is that we can function with some additional powers that we didn't have before he did that, which is why you're seeing we're not rushing out there to launch our own state of emergency, because we get those powers from him when he does it. So we'll look at it from a public health perspective and a community perspective and all those perspectives. I'm probably the the guy that has the unfortunate decision, or the unfortunate responsibility for making the decision on St. Patrick's Day Parade, and I'll be making that probably tomorrow. I can tell you some of the factors that we're weighing as we try to make a good data-informed decision is what are they saying at the state level, what are they saying at the county level, what are we seeing locally. I also today asked for the data point because we and Hollywood had 2 parades Saturday and Sunday.
Correct.
The fact that Hollywood canceled today, I wanted our parks folks to do a quick round of calls to the people that come into town, for the only purpose of walking in 2 parades, one right after the other.
Right.
And so if now there's only one, I want to get some senses to make sure that we don't all of a sudden have half of our parade falling off because now there's only one parade to walk in.
FLPD usually flies now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that...
They do the back-to-back, my buddies in there, yeah.
Right, and so now the fact that there's not a back-to-back, and there's these concerns of coronavirus that are swirling out there, I just want to make sure that we haven't taken a parade and it has self-diluted to the point that it really is not a parade. So I want to know that data point. And also, there's a couple of conference calls tomorrow that deal with what they're doing at both the national level and the state level, and then we're just going to have to make the call. I can tell you to the mayor point when he talked about extra hand sanitizing stations and hand washing stations, we've ordered all those. So if we do go forward with a parade, those will be there, and we'll take it from there. So decision will be coming soon because at some point people either have to mobilize or not. With respect to the stadium, we don't, as a function of our operating license with Inter Miami, have the authority to cancel or suspend one of their league play games. They have to do that. We can, in fact, close down the stadium if it's a life safety issue, like if the bleachers aren't safe or something, we can do it, but we can't say that you can't play your game on Saturday. So I have every belief that they will move forward unless the conditions change in the next couple of days. I'm having breakfast with the team tomorrow morning, so I'll get a sense as to where their leadership is leading into their first game on Saturday. One of the data points that I like to get is I like to stay connected with the Panthers and see what they're going to do. They have a home game planned for Saturday night at BB&T, and their business as usual and moving forward. And so it makes it a little bit interesting to have the other professional soccer team or professional sports team that's in South Florida playing in an indoor environment that's been sanctioned by professional sports, and then suggest that our outdoor environment of professional sports is at risk. So we'll keep balancing all those things in the next day or so and try to make the best decisions that we know how to make that are informed and not just reactionary. I did learn that our otherwise boring Saturday is now also going to have Joe Biden visit. So on top of
Saturday,
a parade, and on top of soccer stadium, we'll have that in town.
bring them in the parade.
I have no idea yet. This just literally
to the
came to
Broward
me, and I
DC.
said of all of the places that we need one more event to have a law enforcement focus on Saturday, you might come all. Come one, come all. So that's where we are with our planning. We're taking it exceptionally serious. But to the points I heard earlier, if we're still dropping our kids off at school and we're still requiring people to come to work, I don't want to lose our sense of community along the way. And so I too called Paula Thackey today. She is the one that's in charge of the Florida Department of Health, who's been on several of these press conferences to have her side in making the informed decision, and I have not heard back from her. So that's seems to be about par for the course with the county's interaction with us related to this event. So any questions I can answer for anybody?
It's wonderful. Wonderful.
Dr. Getz.
I would just urge you again to reach out to some of the cities in California and Seattle. They've already dealt with a lot of this stuff and find out what they would have done at our stage, when they knew that there were 3 or 4 cases in the community, and now that it's spread, what would they have done?
Lessons learned, sure.
Or something like that. I think some of them, conference calls nationally. So that might help you make a decision like Seattle, New York City, several of the California towns.
We've got some pretty good contacts out there, so we can Good job. Take a poll and get some advice. Anything else?
Last question. Lady in the back, if you could remind us of your name again, sorry.
Tara Chadwick from Home, beautiful Park Association.
Hey.
I was just reading this morning that both Hollandale and some other county in South Broward there suspended water shutoffs during this public health emergency. I was wondering if City of Fort Lauderdale followed suit.
So that's the first time I've been asked that question, and I don't know that I have an informed answer for you. We would certainly err on the side of caution, and if people having water at their house is important during a period of state of emergency, we like to do the right thing, and so we're a compassionate organization. So, you know, we go through a water shutoff process as a part of our billing, because as a part of our bonds, we can't give away free water. And so, you know, we notify multiple times the homeowners that are at risk. And what I would encourage, if somebody has been notified or is concerned that it would be shut off, either call my office or call utility billing here at City Hall. They're located on the first floor, is that walk-in office. We'll certainly work with folks.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
No, that's all right. We're gonna have Chris come back next month if you're willing.
Yep.
And
Until these pipes are in the ground, I'm coming back.
yeah, and you'll let us know about cancellations, end of business tomorrow, maybe-ish.
I hope it's before the end of business. There's a fairly important call at the national level at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, so I do want to get through that before we ultimately pull the trigger.
So we'll send out communication, but the city sends out ample communication as well. We're very grateful to have you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you again for all the work
Thank
you're
you.
doing. Really wonderful.
And I'm playing tiptoe with this thing because, you know, it really is probably an operations decision, but if I kind of hear what I'm hearing from our commissioners, they're very divided on whether or not we move forward or not. So I appreciate y'all taking a position tonight. That's helpful to be able to articulate to them what the community, at least through this organization, is thinking. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so our last presenter is Courtney Crush, and so we're going to talk about the proposed Searstown development, which is that kind of triangle of land along Federal and Sunrise and Flagler area. So this is not to talk about the building itself, right? This is to talk about the transportation and traffic implications around the building, because that's really, in terms of planning development, a key ingredient and a required ingredient for it to be successful. If you don't mind, Courtney, I'd like you to introduce your wonderful team. I know Chris from our neighborhood, and we've introduced me to Andrew, but before you present, if you could introduce everybody and have them come up, please help me welcome Courtney.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having us. I am Courtney Crush. With me tonight is the property owner with RK Centers, Andrew Zadar. Andrew, I don't know if you want to say a few words.
Of course. First and foremost, thank you for having us. I appreciate it. I knew really nothing about this association before coming tonight, and I have to say this is very cool to see all the neighborhoods in Fort Lauderdale come together, do something like this, to put minds in a room and talk and obviously share ideas is very cool. It's very cool to see. So obviously, thank you for having us. I'm sure everybody has read or seen something at this point or somewhat familiar about what we're proposing. The short on us quickly is we are a South Florida-based company with an office in Sunny Isles. We've owned the property since 1987. With Sears has obviously been a tenant there since about 1955. I think everybody here, I'm born and raised in Plantation High School in Fort Lauderdale, so over the years everything has changed really but Sears, right? So I think we're excited about the future of this. As Colleen mentioned, I think our goal here today is to address, everybody's got traffic concerns, of course, like any city and any city that has, the new developments going on. So obviously traffic is a big concern. So our goal is, let's discuss traffic here today. There will be a process, obviously, with the property and the development and time to answer questions and stuff like that. And can make, my email available if anybody has specific questions that we can address tonight or anything that you'd like to ask. But, and I can share that with you and you guys can obviously give that out. But, and maybe I'll regret that decision. But that being said, our goal here tonight is to address traffic, and we feel like we've got a great team, obviously, with Courtney and Lisa and Chris. So I will turn it over to them. But But first, I want to say thank you, obviously, for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Great. Perfect.
Thank you, Andrew. Also with me today is Lisa Bernstein, who is our traffic engineer.
Oh, nice.
And Chris Coonan, architect. Chris doesn't get to show his pretty buildings this evening. And part of the reason that your chair and I had talked about coming here with open ears, if you will, to listen is first and foremost, and Lisa can certainly relate to this, people are always skeptical when it comes to traffic discussions. Second of all, and I think we did, it's not working. These properties, and RK owns 3 parcels of land. You're all familiar with the piece of property where the Sears and the Auto Center are on. They also own 2 and have 2 other parcels on the south side of 9th. We are proposing, and I know a lot of you may have seen at some of the neighborhood presentations, whether it's been Flagler Village, we were at Middle River Terrace last night, or Victoria Park, some of the beautiful and soon to become more exciting architecture, but really in repurposing these 3 parcels, everyone has an opinion about traffic, and that seems to stem from, here, sweet, you actually advance that, the remote's not loving me, how you may interact with it, whether you're a neighborhood on the north side of Sunrise Boulevard and are approaching it and trying to head south, or coming up on 4th, whether you're coming north on Federal Highway, coming around the bend to go north, which is probably one of the easier movements. Everyone, myself included, has heartburn over, if you're coming west on Sunrise, first you start to have to make choices. There becomes a island, then you get a little bit closer and you've already made, certain choices, and you've made that choice to go south. At that point, there's 2 lanes going west, and then you get up in front of the property itself, which today has multiple curb cuts. So part of the reason we wanted to come with you to talk to you this evening is really to listen, number 1. Number 2, to take you through and to share who we're talking to, because State Road US 1 is a state road, as is Sunrise Boulevard. A lot of the traffic signals are controlled by Broward County. Then we have City of Fort Lauderdale, and then we have residents who interact with these 3 properties, which have 4 key arterials, I guess 9 and a local road, which we would like to transform. A lot of you have different experiences and perspectives. We are in the Flagler Village neighborhood. They've shared with us a desire as it relates to turning movement. So Lisa's going to take you through she's going to take you through what we're studying, and please, if there's something we haven't thought of, or you would like to be sort of aware of who we're talking to, but just to let you know, we're going to talk to different agencies. In some cases, we're going to try to consolidate those conversations, right? It makes sense. We're talking to DOT about what they're doing. We would like the Metropolitan Planning Organization to be at the table, and in a lot of cases, the city. So really trying to listen to understand, again, how people are experiencing traffic today, because as the property redevelops and as the site plan is refined, if we can actually, at the end of the day, take the time to make some constructive improvements, now would be the time. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa.
You took my slide.
I did.
I know you did.
Well, I did. I didn't say the specific, except for the
That's okay.
MPO.
My name is Lisa Bernstein, and I'm the Director of Traffic Engineering at Keith. I have 30 years' experience in traffic. They told me to go play in the road, and I took it literally, and I've been doing it since then. And I love it, and it's frustrating, and it's wonderful, and you have to use it, you have to drive around, you have to go places. It is what it is, and every time you build a building, you're going to have traffic. So, as Courtney stated, we are coordinating with DOT and the city departments for their reviews, and the MPO for any improvements or things that they're considering in the area. And we definitely want feedback from y'all. So the intersections that we're required to study by the City of Fort Lauderdale for this project are shown on this slide. And it's the 3 intersections on Sunrise Boulevard, which is 4th, Flagler, and the US 1 intersection. the intersection at 5th and Flagler, 9th, all across 9th from Flagler to 5th to Federal Highway, and then at 3rd and Flagler, and then along 8th Street. The unsignalized intersections through the neighborhood, and then the signalized intersection at 8th and US Funk. So these are what are required for the study. Now, DOT is planning on adding a 3rd southbound lane from US 1. And if I'll just point over here, I'll just make it a little easier for you. So currently, right now, you have the 1 westbound lane, and you have 2 southbound lanes that go around the corner. They're going to trim the median and now you have the eastbound and southbound lane curves around, and it's currently a yield sign, and you just go into that lane. That lane, they're going to trim the median here, and that area, and that lane here, where it picks up here, is going to become the 3rd southbound lane. So you will have now you have 2 going into 3, it will be 3 continuously through the intersection. And it's 6 all the way heading south. So that's going to give some more capacity at this location. If you go to the next one.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
As part of our...
Right, the fourth lane.
So
the fear, obviously, the concern is if you're westbound and you're going to head into the southbound movement, is there will be an additional 4th lane in front of our project to turn into the project. So the newly created 3rd lane will not serve as the right-hand.
Oh, no, our project is going to have a turn lane
Correct.
into
So
the center of the site.
there won't be that backup
That's on when we get the site plan of the site. You'll
Right
see
in that
it.
jumping.
And plus, we're also...
Let me do it again.
So, okay, let me add that. So right here, in addition to this 3rd southbound lane, there will be a right turn lane into the project here, and there will also be an additional right turn lane onto 9th Street. So that's going to free up some capacity at 9th. It's going to take the turning movement into the project off of US 1 and into a turn lane, so that you don't have to slow down and stop for the cars entering the project. And the same with the turn lane onto 9th, because the main entrance will be over here, and they will be able to turn, get out of the traffic, and can keep the through-moving traffic away from the project. Okay. So, they're also going to modify, they're going to modify the signs over here to indicate that there are 3 lanes. And they're going to fix the structure that holds the overhead signs, so it'll be better visibility, so that you will know more clearly. They're going to adjust the advanced sign, and more clearly that the 1 westbound, you only have the 1 westbound, but you do have 3 now through lanes. So this is a preliminary plan. It's at this stage. We will be meeting with DOT to discuss the project and this improvement that they're going to do, so we can get coordination.
That was a question, Lisa.
Sure.
So currently, when you're going westbound on Sunrise, there's 3 lanes. And then there's like this little penalty
box?
Shoot. Penalty shoot.
Yeah.
That if you didn't commit over, you hit the island. So now it's going to be all 3 lanes, and then if you're in the rightmost lane, you can either go west or you can make the curve.
No, the west is going to be a separate lane, and there's
So
going
they're
to
going
be
to
3.
widen the road?
Yes, they're going to take away from the median here and this turn lane, and it's all going to become 3 through lanes, and then, back up one? Thank you. And then they're going to trim the median here and here to get the additional land for the through lane. It already starts here.
But leading up to that,
This
it's
is gonna
still
be
gonna
added.
3. So you're right.
3, all the way.
You make a choice.
3 lanes all the way through from before you make the turn now. So you'll get lined up in advance.
Board Member Albetta, followed by the gentleman.
My concern is telling Courtney, traffic going east on Sunrise Boulevard and where the railroad tracks is, I'm praying to God until this project begins, there's not a death there. Because
really bad.
that traffic light on that intersection down there, when you hit right,
You mean the...
no, come on down. No, back that screen, yes.
Okay.
No.
Well, here's an overall picture, so this is a better picture for you.
So there's a light right before that turn that you go on US 1, Follow me?
That's back here.
Yeah.
There it is. That's
Yeah.
the Flagler.
No, come down, and there's another lake a little bit further down. East or west?
The line is here. It's right here.
We say down, you mean east or west?
East or
Mike?
west.
Oh, okay, yeah, so east.
This is actually, the
Right,
whole
that-
intersection is right
Okay,
here.
that light there, when that light changes, traffic spills all the way onto the railroad tracks and backs up traffic on Flagler Drive. It is horrendous. I would tell you, this is, I'm surprised there's not a death there already, or major accidents. Because you have people doing derby dashing there with their cars and vehicles. I know that the traffic lights are not in sync yet.
Yeah, there is.
No, yeah, right, and that is an issue, and that's a Broward County issue that's part of that, what we're gonna be talking about with them.
Yeah.
Because they are working on better systems.
Good point, gentleman in the back.
Heading east on Sunrise,
Yes.
around the curve, is that going into a fourth lane, and they have to merge over, or what?
We're heading east.
And going, curve to the right, to go
Over
south?
there?
For the southbound movement.
Southbound
That's
movement,
gonna-
is that gonna end up in your fourth lane, or is that?
No, that's
No,
gonna, that's
it'll be the
gonna,
third lane, but the idea is that anybody that wants to access the project won't slow those 3 lanes. Those 3 lanes are going to be moving,
So this is
and if you want to access the project, yeah,
another one over.
there'll be an additional lane to queue that, as well as all the way going to 9th, which part of our focus has been the utilization of 9th and widening it and improving it so that we can help with Flagler.
Ms. Mamana, followed by Board Member Castillo, and we'll take those two first. Yeah.
Okay, these road improvements that are being proposed or being done by the state and the county or whoever's doing them, they're not associated with this project, are they? They are.
no, these were already planned.
These are already planned. right?
This is in the plan,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
They're in the FDOT work program.
They're in the work program, that's a 5-year work program. When is it contemplated that they're gonna happen?
I have not had the meeting with the people who are running this project, but we are going to schedule it so we can talk about our project with their project. I do not have a timeline for this.
Do they have the designs ready?
Well, they have
The
a
plan-
fairly good conceptual design here. I don't have their actual construction drawings. I'm not sure at what level they're at yet. But I'm definitely following up with that, and we will have a sit-down meeting with them to discuss the project. And at that point, we will get timelines and construction dates and when all of this will be going into play.
Excellent point and excellent question in terms of the intersection and integration and timing. What I love about this is it clearly crosses neighborhoods, this project, right? So there are implications around the city, everybody going from one point of the city to the other. This is exactly what we should be talking about when new building developments come along. How does this impact us? Not as much on the infrastructure side. I think transportation is the big question. So I really applaud that this is being discussed now. I mean, the project isn't even approved yet, nor should it be without a clearly defined and well-implemented and well-timed transportation plan. But this is great. You got this feedback is exactly what this group is looking for. Mr. Castillo, followed by
my
Ms.
question-
Pelican and Dylan.
My question is regarding 9th Avenue, or 9th Street. actually.
Street, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's actually a street that is splitting your property into 2 lots, north and south. What are you doing to 9th? Is it gonna be affecting, you're not planning on vacating the 9th?
No, like we said, there's going to be a beautification of 9th, a widening, there's also some, we're working with the, well, no, go ahead.
And I apologize, a little later, would it maybe make sense for Lisa to share slides? We wanted to show you the context and what the other agencies are doing. She's gonna then overlay it with the footprint of the site plan and show the access points, and I think that would answer your question. Sure, it's only, I think, like 2 slides from
Then I
now.
prefer my question for the time.
Is that okay? So let's defer, do 2 more slides, and Mary and Dylan.
So this is the property as it exists today. The yellow arrows are the existing cuts in the road to access the property. These are the driveways into the site today. There's 3 in and outs on Sunrise Boulevard. There's 3 in and outs on US 1, and there's 1 on 5th, and there's 1 on Flagler. So that's 3, 6, 8 driveway access locations today. And some of them are fairly wide. The project will only have 5. There will only, the Sunrise access points are all being closed. There will be no access to the project from Sunrise Boulevard.
Michael, that'll help with your,
That's it's too congested.
you won't have people slowing down to turn on going eastbound on Sunrise.
There will be a right turn into the access point, access from US 1, a right turn lane from here to take you in, and it's a right in and a right out only, median in the way. When you come in tonight, the main access is on 9th, and there's going to be an in and an out, one lane in and one lane out. And the road will be enhanced in many ways for pedestrian.
I think Chris has a picture, you can ask him to.
And then let me just get one more. And then the service access point for the buildings will be off of 5th, and then another access point for the retail residential areas on 5th. And then the access on Flagler is going to be limited to a right in and a right out. A left will not be permitted in due to the proximity of your location to Sunrise Boulevard.
Good.
So you will not be able to turn left, it's a right in, right out only.
That's not a separate turn lane off of Flagler.
Excuse me?
Is that a turn lane off of Flagler?
No, there's no room for a turn lane off of Flagler. It's, right, it's just gonna be a right in.
That is the current cut through to go westbound to Sunrise, and it gets backed up tremendously already, and then if you have people stopping to turn in as well, that's a concern. But
Okay, so, like I said, reduced number of access points, more controlled, more defined, better circulation for the site, because this, so as you enter, you can exit and only go that way. You can only make a right out.
Got to the overlay slide yet?
Okay.
Sorry, okay.
Pretty slide.
The pretty slide. The pretty slide shows the turn lane up here off of, here's your 3 through lanes that are coming down, with the addition of the right turn lane into the site, the right turn out, and then the additional right turn lane to get you onto 9th. 9th is being improved. It's going to have, expand out to provide access to 9th Street at the intersection. It's going to have wide sidewalks, pedestrian connectivity throughout the area. Actually throughout the whole entire area. The whole entire area is getting more pedestrian connectivity with wider sidewalks, better features, trolley stops,
More questions about you.
Uber stops.
Okay, so we have 2 questions and then a third. So Board Member Pelican.
Okay, so I can appreciate the improvements that you're talking about, but as someone who drives that intersection 3 or 4 times a day, and I'm coming from the east, this has many more implications than just right there. And as Courtney said, we know that driving from the east, driving west on Sunrise Boulevard, there's 3 lanes now, they're all jacked up. And there's cross lights, there's lights out of sync, it's just packed with traffic. And there's, not to mention the intersection at Gateway. And are there plans for that? Because honestly, when I drive this intersection, I always kind of feel like once I get past Searstown, I'm okay. It's east of there.
The additional 3rd lane will definitely help. From your 2-lane to 3-lane section is going to get longer in the 3-lane section.
But this is a really interesting philosophical question, which is, what is the transportation jurisdictional boundaries, right? For the added capacity of tenants and cars, how far east do we go with it?
It's at least...
Right. So who's traffic
past
further east?
Back to the gallery, actually the gallery.
I don't think it's going to be Gateway. I think if we start west of Gateway, and part of the reason we're asking Lisa to put together this puzzle is it is a mess. Everything from capacity, number of lanes, signage, signal timing, So as you're widening, are you putting the light in the right place, and is it time? In addition to what we're doing, if we are improving, let's say, the experience, because we don't have cuts on Sunrise, and improving that with the additional lane, with our turn lane, and by directing the intensity to 9th and Flagler and dispersing, is that working? So I think what we need to come up with is, in talking with all the agencies, if we do these things, how does that model out? And that's why we are trying to start off the property to the east and to the west, because it needs to function, and hopefully this is, as I said, is an opportunity to make it function better.
It's a
Excellent.
tough area.
With respect to,
I'm sorry, with
so
respect.
Dylan, I'm sorry, so excellent point, though. I think you're raising a really interesting question. Mr. Lage?
Thank you. Just with Flagler's neighborhood, as we've been working with this, just a couple quick points on, and on our Fort Lauderdale Downtown Regional Activity Center master plan, we do have the Flagler Gateway roundabout that shows when you go northbound on US 1, which can allow you to turn left onto Sunrise Boulevard. That's obviously not in this. How has the master plan influenced your guys' planning as a development and all that?
You had mentioned that to us. We have sat with the MPO, and thank you for sending over the formalized version this evening. We're happy to go sit and have that conversation with FDOT. We did mention that the neighborhood had that request. Also, the roundabout to Greg Stewart at the MPO, that was before he started as the city's contract traffic czar on March 1st. So he's aware, so when we have our follow-up conversations, we're happy to participate in that. But we already did mention it to Greg.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's two other things. I want to just one other thing about transportation. I feel, and we put this in the formalized comments, is this could be an awesome catalyst for a rubberized circulator, like a freebie, but for real. You talked about trolley stops. That's very good to hear. I think that this could serve as a catalyst throughout downtown and the beach and everything. I understand.
We did talk about that with the MPO as well.
I really think that that's a programmatic way. We can market this correctly and really work together. So that's that.
And I'm sorry, if I can on that, and I know Lisa touched upon it, and I know we're all focused on roads, but how people who would live here and walk here, because as Andrew can tell you at another time, this is going to be residential, neighborhood serving uses as well as office, and part of our goal is that if you live here or if you live a little bit south of here, you don't have to get into your car.
Right.
And part of that is the, if there is an opportunity to have a freebie trolley, Chris has already looked at where that could occur at the location, in addition to bikes and scooters and other things. The people who live here shouldn't have to drive very much.
It's one of
I'm a scooter fan, I know that's not a hot topic. Let's go back to coronavirus, but let's just stop.
The only one thing is just Fifth Avenue is one-way still. I just wanted to confirm that.
So that's the plan? That's we're proposing.
Only north, just to clarify, only north of 9th.
Just from here up?
Yes. Yeah, well, I wanted for everybody to
That's
know.
cut through traffic right now.
From here up.
Not being able to turn left.
All right, so
That's all.
yeah, I'm so sorry. So we're gonna cut this conversation off for interaction at 8:10 p.m. There will be continued facilitated dialogue. We're going to get the presentation out to folks. This was intended to be an initial conversation with feedback based on this presentation. I'm sure we'll have several conversations from here. With that, I know I have at least 3 outstanding hands. Board Member Curry, Board Member Castillo.
Can you please go back to the slide that is the aerial of the broader geographic area, this one? So you've told us a lot about what you're going to do in this area, and you've told us about pedestrian access and everything. I think as we look at this, we need to be realistic and know that everything on the north side of Sunrise is probably going to be changed in the near future. So what I haven't heard today is what is happening with pedestrian access from this property to the other side, because that's going to change. It's not always going to be the pet store, the vacant thing. There's a Publix down there. So you talked about pedestrians all on this side relating to some of the specific neighborhoods, but what about connecting to the folks on the north side, please?
There currently is a
That's my
connection.
neighborhood she's talking about.
There is a connection that's currently not used.
Glad you brought that up.
There's not much over there. But if it was...
Oh, but there will be.
I said now, but if there's not much over there now. However, there is...
I need to take you for a walk there.
There is pedestrian connectivity to the north side of the road from Flagler. Now, obviously, in this area, it'd be hard to put a crosswalk in here.
You guys, let's just make the point. The point is, we want to be cognizant of the north side boundaries.
Absolutely.
And plans for that. Point made. Board Member Castillo.
My question was again, because the reason why I was asking for 90 is that the only way that you can legally do a westbound onto Sunrise and points beyond and 95 and everything else, when you're coming north on the US 1, is that if you're going north, you could go in the curve really nice, no problem, to the beach. When you're going west, you have to turn into 9th, then to 5th, Flagler, and that's what she was mentioning, it is congested because that's the only way to get it to the west. There, you're going to be putting now 2 entrances there, right?
Are you making a question here? Can you put up?
No, I'm asking because this is...
Go back to our...
Exactly, that's what it is. You're going to have 3 entrances into this complex in an area in which you actually 4.
Well, this is a service drive, so that's for the garbage truck.
Which could easily back up when people are trying to cut through.
Right, but usually the garbage truck either comes really early in the morning or, I mean, it's when people are...
Okay, so the point that's being made is question about the service entrance and the backup. We're gonna have to continue this conversation at a later date. Here's the good thing. There's lots of feedback. And there's lots of critical observations that I think are very, very meaningful. So we have one last question for tonight, and that is from outgoing board member Eichelbaum, and we will revisit this at a future meeting.
Can you put the future of 9th, the 2 sides of it, image up?
You might have a rendering.
And as I saw the presentation, that's a hotel to the south side.
Correct.
correct.
Yeah, the southeast part.
I totally agree that the economics and the prestige of the project are predicated on 9th being a prominent street, and it helps a lot. But how do you service a hotel, and that ties back to your concerns of 9th? I'm for it as being a terrific street, but can it service a hotel, deliveries, et cetera, et cetera? How?
From the operations of the hotel.
The operations of the hotel and what he's talking about and everything else. I think the turn there is absolutely logical, and it adds to the prestige of the project, adds to your economics.
Well, I think that that's where 5th comes in to service the hotel, rather than on 9th.
So there's a drive through this part, and then most of the service happens over here.
Self-contained within.
9th.
Okay, just our experience of downtown, we've had more servicing mishaps and passed by quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really good point. All right, so I'm gonna, if it's okay, Courtney and her team have come to specific neighborhoods to talk about this project, and there are specific neighborhood concerns, but I think collectively this is a very important conversation as well. So we will share this presentation. We will have you come back in the months to come, and if you would like Courtney to come to your neighborhood to have a conversation about this project, I'm sure, I don't want to offer that up. Absolutely. But, you know, these are very important conversations.
Andrew's picking up the tab.
I very much appreciate the intelligent, highly observational critique that was provided tonight. So thank you all very much, and please help me thank our speakers. And did you want to say anything to end?
No, thank you very much. This was very helpful. There are some very common sense things, like Christina, when you're saying, don't forget connectivity across, even though we're talking to the neighborhoods, you're the first person to say it.
Right.
And with respect to 9th, sir, we heard you, and in terms of access, we have started to hear some comments back from Greg Stewart at the MPO about what should be, not our project, one way or the other, so, but obviously the ability to get to Sunrise and go west, I will tell you, is on Greg Stewart, who's now in charge of city transportation. He's looking at that very carefully, independent of all this, and we'll make sure that that is included in our conversations.
And we'll document the points here, and Christina.
So tomorrow we were going to send out an email sharing contact information for police and fire. Would you be willing for me to to include your contact information for associations. So can I have your cards before you leave, please? Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, all right, wonderful presentation. Please help me thank this team, Courtney and Andrew, and Lisa, thank you very much. You're very welcome. Wash your hands. All right. All right, that concludes our presentations, and we have a few ending points. I think we did mention 2020 census in the meeting announcement, but we have a representative from Census 2020 that has recruiting materials and just wants to say 2 minutes worth of information for everyone.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bob Pascal. I'm a lifetime resident of the city of Fort Lauderdale, and I'm currently serving in the capacity as a recruiter for the U.S. Census. Basically, we are at a crossroads because we have 2 weeks left for recruiting. We are at a deficit in the city of Fort Lauderdale. I've given tonight the chairwoman the list of the neighborhoods that we need to have census takers. So basically from the downtown area, north to Sunrise, south to 17th Street, and east to the beach, we need census takers. If we do not have the required number of census takers, we are not going to get a complete count, and we are not going to get the full federal funds that we are entitled to. So, we have recruiting materials here, and we'll also be providing you the name of Orlando Santana, that is also one of my team partners that is working with me here in the city of Fort Lauderdale. So please feel free to take any type of recruiting materials with you and to reach out to us, because we have 2 weeks left to reach the recruiting goals.
$17.50 an hour.
Correct.
Orlando is in the back of the room. I see 2 names here, but I'm not sure I can read the names and numbers. Please, if you're still here, go talk to Orlando and give him your contact info. Yes, sir.
My neighborhood wasn't on there, but can we share it to everyone? Do they have to live in a certain neighborhood, or you'll take people that
That's a
work?
great question.
I mean, the thing is, we pretty much met all the hiring goals for these other parts of the city, but it's just that the city is divided into different tracks, so for each track, there has to be a specific number of hiring.
Couldn't they walk in another neighborhood? Couldn't
Well,
they?
what we're being told is that they want to hire those people directly from their own neighborhoods to be the census takers.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
All right, come back to us in a day or two. We might have some more people for you. All right, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. All right, everybody knows that early voting is on? Everybody know who the candidates are?
It's only presidential election.
It's only presidential, but the Republican candidates are Trump and Weld. Okay, great. And the Democratic candidates are Biden, Sanders, and the lady from Hawaii, right? Yeah, Gabbard. Okay. All right, so early voting until March 15th. Please do so. Proposed federal courthouse site. So we just provided feedback to GSA that we support a federal courthouse in Fort Lauderdale. We do not have a position on any particular location, and we did ask to be provided and included in the feedback loop for the environmental study. Okay? We will have a special election in May, so we'll notice it this month. If you're interested in running for first VP, please do come by and see me. And then we do have a voting item on the agenda, which is to appoint board member Concanon, who's absent tonight, and board member President Emeritus Mamano to the 2020 Audit Committee. So we now audit our books annually for our bylaws. So just have that as a motion, please, and then we can second and vote on that.
I make a motion to nominate Jim Concanon and Marilyn Mamano to the 2020 Audit Committee.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Great. Any opposed? All right, wonderful. Thank you, congratulations, and appreciate your service on the Audit Committee. We have ITF and STR legislation correspondence that were sent up the chain. So the general membership voted last month to expand and extend the role of the infrastructure task force. So that's been now authorized through the city commission. So thank you to all the members of the ITF for their service, and Chairwoman Romano especially. Short-term legislation, we put in that we were against it, and I'm so surprised that did not get through the Senate. Member events, so we have upcoming events, I'll let you read those. St. Patty's Day Parade we've talked about. Our next general meeting is April 14th. Our guest is Commissioner Moratis. And that is it for this evening. Yes, sir.
Can I make one quick comment on
Yes.
short-term rental?
Yes.
There was something that was very good that was part of that program, which was, and so I've mentioned it to the mayor and to the city manager, and I want to put it out there. The platforms that are running these, okay, Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, everything. We're going to make a new requirement of everyone that puts their thing on, that they must put their state license number to make sure that they were fully licensed and that they were collecting all the tax. So if those platforms were willing to do it at a state level, why couldn't Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, all the other cities, say, well, you were going to do it for the state if they passed this bad deal, which would overturn our regulation. But now we should add that to our regulation and put pressure on the platforms that they go ahead and require everyone. Because I can tell you, half of them would then fall off, because they don't have their tax ID number, and it would clean it up. And anyone in condos wouldn't be able to get their tax ID number because it goes against condo bylaws. So if you can't advertise, you're cleaning up the worst of the bad apple.
It's a great suggestion. Let's take it under consideration and bring it back for a motion next month after we've talked about it, because I want to understand what's underneath this, but I think that's an excellent suggestion.
It's a cherry pick.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's it, and we're going to close the meeting, and hopefully we'll see most of you on Saturday. All right, thank you. Motion adjourned. Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned. Did you announce that you're going to hearings?